Salt Lake City police officers have a new tool they believe can de-escalate tense situations without the use of deadly force.
John Franke shows us how this gun works. He's going to show you, and how those who advocate for police reform are now reacting.
Well, hey guys, this device is called a less lethal shotgun. Salt Lake City police have about 85 of these guns right now. They say can be used in situations like calls for a suicidal subject or crowd control in a riot, for example. But reaction from activists is somewhat mixed. The orange markings on this gun indicate this is a less lethal shotgun. The rounds look like bullets. Instead, they're filled with a sock of pellets.
Our hope in any of those scenarios where we have to use force is that we're able to use the least amount possible.
The gun is described as a blunt force trauma tool. Salt Lake Police made it clear it is not replacing traditional weapons.
Is this appropriate for a lethal force situation where it's clearly a lethal force situation where somebody has a gun and has the ability to deploy it on our officers? It probably isn't.
Every shift now has several officers who are trained to use these guns. The department says adding these is not a direct response to recent calls for police reform.
Anything that you see going forward now at this point in time is maybe would indicate the police reform, right? That's what we're trying to accomplish with that. This is not necessarily one of those things, but it certainly checks that box.
Lex Scott, the founder of Black Lives Matter Utah, believes this is a big deal and a sign of progress.
It makes me emotional. We have to celebrate the small wins. We have to celebrate the small wins because we get so very few.
Scott says she meets with SLC PD leadership each month, and those conversations are making a difference.
I think the protests started a nationwide dialogue about police reform. It made it more acceptable to talk about police reform and to say, yes, some changes could be made here.
But others active in the police reform movement aren't as optimistic.
It feels like they're just adding to their arsenal to be used against it during protests. I don't see the field use of tools like this. I only see them as crowd suppression tools.
David Kakaninden is a member of Utah Against Police Brutality. He does not believe this addresses any of the issues he sees with law enforcement.
What we really need right now is not alternative tools. What we really need right now is a foundational, fundamental overhaul of what police represent and what they do in our communities.
The debate on police reform is far from over. These less lethal guns aren't ending the conversation, but Lex Scott hopes they lead to more change.
This country is a tinderbox right now. It's a powder keg right now. The more wins we can get, the more calm we can get.
And officers are trained to avoid aiming at the head or groin area with these guns. Instead, they have a smaller target like arms or thighs. They tell us getting this tool has been a 2-year-long process. Live in the studio, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.